Hello everybody, I am back with another tutorial, specifically a material tutorial where I will be talking about expanded polystyrene foam, or XPS foam. This is a rigid counterpart to EVA foam, the flexible foam that's often used for armors, that can very easily be combined, carved down, and turned into giant props like this, while keeping the weight down and the cost. So let's go through the techniques needed to combine these XPS boards, carve them down to rough shapes, get them a little closer to the actual final shape you need, and everything involved in between. So let's jump to it. Alright, so we're going to make something similar to this shape, but a whole lot simpler so it goes quickly. Let's go over materials real quick. Safety equipment is important for this. It breaks down into particles. It can get in your eyes and lungs pretty fast. And this is the foam itself. So you can get these smaller boards like this, or you can get very large sheets that you'll need to break down in your Home Depot or Lowe's. They come in different widths. This is a 1-inch board right here. I like to work with this 2-inch material primarily. It just saves time with the amount of boards that you need to combine to actually get the width that you need. And once you combine multiple 2-inch boards, it can look sort of like this, depending how big the shape that you're trying to break down is. And we actually combine that with Super 77 spray adhesive. I prefer to carve down to the rough shape with a handsaw, a large toothed handsaw, and then we can get finer details with this metal tooth blade if you need to get into the fine details. And then the next step is to sand with a sanding block and then hand sanding. Talking about wrapping materials, Worbla is my favorite. You can also use Epsilon from Smooth On. And experimentally, you can use EVA foam to wrap on XPS. That's what I used on my Lionel Crusher from Breath of the Wild. Alright, so let's get started. And I'm just going to kind of doodle out the rough shape of what the silhouette of what we're going to carve down is going to look like. So let's just say it's sort of a little diamond guy right there, and we'll combine some boards and carve down appropriately to kind of get a diamond shape. So you'll just take out your saw, and you can either combine the boards all together, or you can get to a smaller shape. They just snap pretty easily along your cut lines, and then combine the smaller shapes just to save the amount of thick boards that you need to cut down through. Depending on the pieces that you're working on, either method can work. Alright, so now that you have your boards, make sure they're around the same size, and then we will pull out our Super 77 spray adhesive after getting the sides that we want to combine in mind. So I want my design to be on the top, so I'll make sure to combine both B sides while the A is remaining on top, so I know where to cut. So get out your Super 77, and this is a rattle can application, so it'll feel a lot like applying rattle can paint. So same sort of methodology where you kind of brush stroke. You'll find that you have a sort of white film on each side. Then you'll wait for this to dry for around 30 to 60 seconds. I like to just kind of wave it around like this to get the drying process a little better. And then after that time has passed, just press the two together, kind of squeeze. You can wait longer if you're worried about the adherence, but that's holding pretty good already. So let's go ahead and get our cutting started. So at this point, it's going to be just cutting along the lines of whatever shape, rough shape, that you are working on. So we'll taper down the edges afterwards, but we need to first get our silhouette out so that we can actually start working on it in a three-dimensional shape. So here we go. We have our kind of base little diamond shape, and now we'll carve down these lines to make it look a little bit more like a, I don't know, a gem or a diamond or something that would look a little more natural. Make sure when you are cutting away at your XPS that you are handling the blade facing away from you as well. It's very easy for it to slip and embed into your hand, which is no fun. I can speak from experience. Alright, so a technique that I enjoy using is sort of this whittling motion. So again, moving the blade away from where you were holding it, you can kind of use the teeth of the handsaw, sort of like very, very coarse sandpaper, and just kind of whittle a large amount away. This is useful for taking off a large amount of XPS foam on an edge and getting kind of a straight shape. That makes the sanding process a little bit easier. The less that you have to sand with a 60 grit on your sanding block, the better. Alright, so all of our sides are pretty well cleaned up. Now we will reach for our sanding block, and this will sort of finalize some of those rough edges. If there's one side that's not quite straight, we can kind of straighten that up with our sanding block pretty quickly. As well, during this process, you will be smoothing out the texture that you just kind of hacked out. So when you get to your ceiling, whether it's Warbler or Epsilon, it'll save some of the smoothing process down the line. You want this surface of your XPS foam to be as smooth as you can get it before you go into your sealing step, because it'll be much more of a headache to smooth out later on. It's very easy and quick right now. Alright, there we go. I'm happy with this shape. Good enough for this example, this weird little diamond guy. Now I'm going to show an example, just kind of half seal, of a material I like to use, and that's black Warbler. So you kind of heat it up to where it's floppy beforehand, and then press down and sort of press it along each of the sides that need to be wrapped. If I were doing a full wrap of this, I would do the same technique to the other side, and then do a sandwich method to bring them both together. But this is just sort of showing how quickly you can get Warbler onto an XPS foam shape and have a rigid sealed surface. I have another video on sealing XPS foam with Warbler you can check out if you're more curious on this technique. Alright everybody, hopefully that demystifies working with XPS foam a little bit. It's one of my favorite materials, specifically when trying to make something larger than life and be able to carry it for more than an hour at a time. So thank you guys for dropping by, and specifically I wanted to thank my new patrons. I have set up a Patreon for helping make more tutorial videos possible and supporting materials and stuff in the shop. Specifically, I want to thank Mario John Mercado, Philip Masters, Kelsey, Eric Frost Fabrications, Mariah Mallet, Ayla Dervis, Tyler Peterson, and Jaron Suzuki. I totally wasn't looking off camera to read those to make sure I didn't forget anything, don't worry. Yeah, so thank you guys especially for supporting me getting stuff around the shop to record more and to have more materials to experiment with. I will have another tutorial video out, hopefully in around 2 weeks, and have them coming out bi-weekly. Thank you again for stopping by and checking out this one, and I will see you next time.